before we start, may I make just one or two little comments?
Sure.
For you people who are beginning, I hope that you will share with me the enthusiasm that I have for just holding to the nostalgia of the one-room schoolhouse. I love it. and I try my very best to portray my enthusiasm to the children. My teacher was a teacher whose name was Mrs. Barnes, and I went to her for 8 years. Now, 3 women have made a profound impression on my life. Of course, my mother and my wife, but Mrs. Barnes was certainly among them. Because in 8 years, she became a second mother. And I knew her well, and she certainly knew me very well. I am so glad the university has taken this school and brought it here so that we may have an opportunity to show children the roots of Iowa education. I have in my box some things that I hope that you'll use. These are rather antique and fun. This is a shoe brush with the applicator on one side, the brush on the other, and a leather buffer. At one time it was when leather was dyed and tanned a certain way, you could take out little scratch marks with the buffer. So that's what this was all about on the other end of the heel spool. So you could get out. Then in the box is a hairbrush and a clothes brush and some other things that we aren't particularly saying about today. But here's a hair receiver. I don't know whether any of you know about a hair receiver or not, but my mother had great long red hair. Hey, and I remember so well her combing her hair and then winding up the hair and putting it in the receiver. And then here is something that you girls may remember, a hair curler. And you put it down in the top of the lamp. And down in the top of the lamp to heat it. And I remember then curling the hair. And this one has one just exactly as my mother did, an air vent down the side so the heat would not go up the handle so bad. Great. Okay. A nail buffer. This is another thing of the past, how much fun they were. Okay. But that's enough of what we have. And over here, you'll see how we go down through the morning song. Incidentally, if you care to, and you're inviting it when you invite the children in, have them stand by their desks rather than to sit. As you recall that went to the country school, the teachers had, my wife, when she taught country school, had as many as 60 classes a day. There was no time for fiddly-dee. And so there was a great deal of pressure-type restrictions. When they came in and stood by their desk and stood there until they were told to sit. Now this sounds a pretty strong discipline, but hey, they had to have it. Mrs. Barnes would have you stand, and she kind of would sugarcoat this discipline with a little song. Good morning to you, good morning to you, we're all in our places. Hey, smiles on your faces, good morning to you. And then she'd have you sit. What a joy. I look back at this little song. Nothing to it really. But did 2 things for me. It taught me to follow the rules. And it was a little sugar-coated. kind of funny. Mrs. Barnes, what a joy she was. After she had us sit, and it came to a time when she felt we should have a little lesson in hygiene or personal grooming, she would sing this song. And here it is up here if you can see it. It would start off, okay. Take your shoe brush, and she'd say, this is the way we shine our boots, shine our boots, shine our boots. Help me sing it. This is the way we shine our boots on our way to school. This is the way we brush our clothes, brush our clothes, brush our clothes. Get the kids to brush their clothes, brush our clothes on our way to school. And this is the way we brush our hair, brush our hair, brush our hair. This is the way we brush our hair on the way to school. And you can go down through the box. It's important that you get the kids to sing that with you, because they then get into the mood of the thing. And when they're through with the song, I do urge you to applaud. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. And I certainly hope that you'll enjoy your part of this as much as I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
I wonder if I may be excused.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, what I'd like to do now is have everybody come up here. Let's see. And we're going to take our places. Here and they're going to go ahead and take us as we're talking. Okay? It's up to you, however you're most comfortable. Okay. All we're going to do is just sit around here and talk about these various items. Anything that you can tell me about these, I would appreciate. For instance, I didn't realize that with the hair curling irons, I was telling the kids that you heated those on the stove.
Oh, of course.
And then, I heard Paul yesterday say, no.
You know that, can I say something along with it?
Yeah.
It reminded me of something when he was talking about that. We used to always have a health inspection, and the youngsters would come up and they'd even open their mouth so you could see if they brushed their teeth.
Wow.
They'd take their hands and turn them over like this to show you that they had clean hands. So and then they had to show you if they had a hanky with them. And then they passed a health inspection, and we had little stars that we put on. Does that ring a bell with some of you?
Did you do that every day or periodically? Or
Every day.
Every day. Huh. That's a good idea.
And in fact, I think it wouldn't be so bad if we still had that sometimes in school.
It might encourage some of the kids to be
The
cleaner.
curling iron made me think that the teacher even had one at school, and before the Christmas program, we curl the hair right at school.
Oh, really?
Over the lamp.
Huh. Okay. Where
Oh, I can remember.
should I be? Why don't you just sit there? Okay, is this all right if I sit here? Okay. The first set of things that I have here are the ones that have to do with kitchen and dining room. Okay? And what I tried to do when I went to the antique stores was take a guess at what looked like sort of typical type things that might have been used in the 1900 to 1920 era, and it would give the kids sort of a clue as to what life was like back then. And one of the things that I found was this red checked tablecloth, and I remember this from Lauren Goes Wilder, that they had the red checked tablecloth, that she got it for her wedding day.
Yeah, right.
And that predated our era a little bit, but I figured they were probably still using red and white checked tablecloths. They're still using them today. And this one was sort of interesting because it had these pictures appliqued onto them of people, and this to me looked like about the 20s. I don't know, teens or 20s? Teens, you think? That 1900 to 1920?
That's before the
Yes.
ladders. Yeah, this is Victorian though.
Yeah.
That's more,
turn of
that's
century?
around the turn of century.
Okay, that one, and then this one right here. So I thought that would give them a little bit of idea of the kind of tablecloth and also the dress at that, you know, really early turn of the century type time, so I got that.
That
And
is-
then,
We would have used that. My mother cleared the table off, all except for the salt and pepper shaker and the sugar bowl and the spoon, holder.
Uh-huh.
And then she covered it with that until the next meal.
oh, I see.
Oh,
We
she put
didn't
it
have-
up over the
Yes,
top.
we didn't have a lot of cupboard space, so those few things are left on the table, and then it was covered with that to
Uh-huh.
keep the flies away.
Yeah, okay. Then we have another tablecloth that we got, and I really don't know for sure how old this is, except that it had all this cross stitch on it, and looked to me like this was hand
Oh, yes.
done
Yeah.
also. And,
Crochet.
yeah, and that just seems sort of typical of that era too, that they were doing
Oh,
a
it's
lot of
linen.
handwork.
Isn't
Yeah, and
that
it's
linen?
linen.
Yeah, that's
Sure
linen.
is.
Yeah, so would this,
Lot of
you
work
think,
in
be sort of typical of that era maybe?
It's 1925, before the
Okay.
Depression.
So a little
Yeah.
later, but we're close.
Somebody that was a little richer than some of them too, that would have the linen.
Yeah. Okay, what, would they have like cotton?
Yeah.
Okay, farm
Flour
shop,
sacks.
more like
Feed
that.
sacks,
Flour
flour
sacks,
sacks,
yeah.
Okay, I've got some
Yeah.
of those. Okay, and then these are things that come from my family, and I have tons of them, and, you know, I'm not gonna use them, so I thought I would just give those, but these are just little handmade things, and would these be like underneath the glasses, like coasters, would that be? Okay,
We didn't.
and then these little things, I don't know if they went on furniture,
That's a pineapple design.
or, okay, but what was it used for?
Just on a table or.
Little
under-
end table
Yeah,
sort of thing.
Okay, they put a glass on?
anything, any little.
Okay, so you can
Vase.
do that.
A knick-knack, yeah.
Vase.
Oh, okay. And then,
That one looked like.
That's an antimacassar.
That's a what?
Antimacassar.
and what was it used for?
That's only
They
maybe-
put macassar on their hair, and then when they sat down, all that oil would get into the chair. So this is this is against it. You wipe,
Oh.
the macassar got onto this, and you could wash it easily.
Oh, it's like you have on Lazy Boys today, where they have that thing that goes over the back,
Yeah.
sort of, and,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's an
okay.
antimacassar.
Okay,
Never heard of that.
we're learning new things all the time. And then this is just something, I guess, that goes on furniture.
That would be on the center table in the parlor.
Oh, okay, good.
I think they use these in the dining rooms and in the bedrooms too, on the furniture.
Okay. And then this was a napkin ring
Oh, my.
that, this has real pretty
That's fancy.
embossing on it. And then this was just a simple napkin. It's really too small, I think, for this napkin ring, but it's the best I could find. And then the woman at one of the antique stores said that this was a typical type dish that would have been used back in that era. The rose.
Got the initials.
Yeah.
My mother would have had to have dishes with flowers on. In fact, she had flower wallpaper and
Or
everything. So
everything.
flowers were very important.
Yeah.
That's a very important, a very popular design.
This Alfred Meekin or whatever it is on the back, I've got a plate that my grandmother gave me when I was a little girl, and it has that same
That's
thing on the
Same
back.
name?
Yeah, only
Okay.
it's kind of brownish tones in it,
Huh,
but it's very, very old.
okay. And then this was an early peanut butter jar, and I just love this, because, you know, now everything's plastic and that sort of thing,
But we bought ours much bigger than that.
okay,
Oh, gosh,
quantity.
We had about like a half gallon. Well, it was a big fat square jar. I got one at home.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, the peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth.
Yeah.
it was,
Oh, I said the
Terrible.
oil on this came up to the top.
I had to grind
But
it
it was
out.
better,
It's-
better tasting than
It's
the
like the
modern.
natural that you can get
Yeah,
today, I'll
right.
bet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much.
Because we get that and you have to
Yeah, right.
mix it all around. This one had, I like advertisings that they used to have. This has got the elephant on the front, Jumbo brand, peanut butter, the Frank Tea and Spice Company, Cincinnati. So I got that, and just to show them that
That's
things
nice.
weren't all done in plastic back then, that, you know, it was more natural type products. And then this I had never seen before, didn't know what it was used for. And it said it was like a whisk type thing that you beat,
Egg
Angels.
whites for
For
angel
angel
food.
food cake.
okay, egg whites? And would you just beat egg whites or flour, or just egg
Well,
whites?
you'd fold in, after you'd
Yeah.
whipped your
You use
Egg
that until
whites.
the egg whites stood in peaks, then you fold it in your flour and sugar.
Okay.
And it took all morning.
Oh, it did.
Okay, and then this is a potato masher, I think. Yes, potato masher and beater. So I guess
It's
they,
much more modern than
Yes,
what we ever
you
had.
should have an old
Older
wooden one.
one.
you had a wooden one?
It was just like a wooden stick. With-
Oh, did it have like peaks in it, like a meat beater almost?
No, it's just
Like a large pedestal, I'm not pedestal.
pestle.
Oh, okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Okay, I saw one of those.
I think I have
So this is older.
That's
Oh,
much
I mean,
newer.
Newer,
Yes.
Yeah.
more recent. So this isn't really authentic.
But then,
is it?
the one we had when I was a kid, we still had this handle, but then it came down and had like a square bottom, and then the wires came up to this handle.
Huh,
So you
okay.
came at it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I've got one at home that I use that is round and it's got like a grill work and a handle and you go like that.
Yeah. That's pretty old.
I mean, it's new, it's a replica, but,
Oh, yeah. 'cause that
Yeah, that's the
reminds me
kind
of
I
what used
use.
to
okay, and then these are the old timey cookie cutters. Okay. And how, I was wondering, how often do they have cookies back when you were kids? I mean, was it something, you
mean
always
cut out-
had
you
cookies?
mean cut out
I mean,
cookies?
just how frequent did kids have them? Did they have them all the time, or just, for a very special treat, or?
We always baked on Saturday, pies.
All
cakes,
morning, all
cookies,
morning long it
at
would
least
be,
all
right.
morning donuts.
Yeah,
Okay, so for
Saturday was
every
baked
week,
in.
it sounds like you
Yeah.
would have
Oh, yeah.
cookies.
and a lot of stuff.
Don't tell my kids.
And they were the rolled out
Yes.
ones, not the
Yeah.
drop.
We didn't have bought cookies much.
My
No, I
grandmother
mean
had,
homemade.
my grandmother had sugar cookies, and they were, everyone perfect. They had little scallops around the edge. Everyone was perfect, or we got to eat the tails and the imperfect ones until she put them in a jar, and then they were rationed, more or less. And our neighbor did the same thing with ginger cookies. She always had ginger cookies in a jar behind the door.
Nice. This is just a funnel, I think. They said you used it for canning?
Canning.
I still have one, I use it like that.
Open up your
Okay.
peanut butter jar there.
Or
It's right
is it
now.
canning?
Well, okay, or your peanut butter jar.
So, I see, so you
Yeah.
put,
Yeah.
make peanut butter and then
No,
Well,
put it in if you made
If
it?
you're
or-
canning anything.
See, after your
tomatoes,
peanut
whatever.
butter was gone, they would use this jar
Oh, for canning?
For canning.
Sure, okay,
It was hard to hit that little hole, so that helped you hit the big hole.
okay.
It's just handy.
And
But
then,
see, any jar like that peanut butter jar, well, then that just went with your canning jars.
Supply.
okay,
You just used all of those again and again.
sort of like the lard buckets for the lunch pails.
Recycle.
Yeah, everything was
Yeah.
recycled. That's one thing after Mary Norton came. And I asked her to teach her class, because she had done the one-room school out at the Red Schoolhouse for years, I guess. And her big point was that people used renewable resources and they recycled everything. And it wasn't, the throwaway society that we have today. I mean, that was her main point. So I always try and make that point with the kids, especially when we talk about the lard pails or maple syrup pails or whatever was used for the lunch pail.
That's brought out a lot in the Laura books too, because Laura's mother would always make little Carrie's dresses out of Laura and Mary's dresses, and they were supposed to be really cute and, this kind of thing, but they were
Recycled.
Recycled, right.
Yeah, and even when I was growing up, my sister got all of my clothes.
I got all of my sisters.
First, she never got anything new. And the boys, it was a little harder because they went through their clothes so fast. They were a lot harder on them. But that was a point I think Bill Dreyer made when we were doing our reenactment last fall, is that your clothes might not fit you exactly right because they were probably handed down and from an older brother or another family even. And, people just didn't get brand new clothes all that often.
My mother used the wax paper out of the cornflakes box to wrap our
Yeah,
lunches in.
Okay.
I don't think
And I thought we were so much better off than the kids that brought their sandwiches wrapped in newspaper.
Oh,
And the bread
my
wrappers.
grandmother never threw away anything, and I think my mother practiced that quite much too.
The bread wrappers were
paper
waxed.
out of the-
Well, we didn't have bread wrappers. My mother baked bread. and
Cold
she-
cereal.
But we
If
did,
we did buy them in later years, they were waxed.
Too, so you could use them.
So you
Yeah,
would use
for
that
lunch.
red wrapper.
And all the old dresses were made into rags.
Rag rugs,
Had
rag rugs.
Oh, I
they made a
still
lot.
do that, don't you?
Yeah,
Sure.
The boys' pants were made into quilts, you know, you cut squares.
uh-huh,
The good parts that's
Nothing,
left.
nothing was thrown away.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna put these things away. I think, and get some other things out.
Did you just buy the granite roaster?
Yes, now she said that this was very much the sort of thing that was used during that era.
Or blue?
Blue or gray?
Mhm.
Okay, the gray stone was what she told me to get. And, what, you know, if you were doing a kit like this on household type items, what other things can you remember that were really sort of a daily part of life back then?
You could buy a coffee grinder,
Okay,
And
There's
a
a
butter maker.
food chopper.
a food
It's just
shop.
simply two blades about that long, and you
chopped cabbage,
wooden bowls.
wooden bowl, put your cabbage
Okay.
slaw in.
Were most of the skillets like this, the heavy duty
Yeah.
stuff?
You didn't burn anything in.
Alrighty.
I don't know whether you know, but there's a kit from Area 7 that you can get. It has all kinds of Pioneer things
I
in
was
it.
just thinking of that, yeah.
Oh, really?
Have you ever seen that?
Uh-uh.
And they have a lot of different things in there.
There's a granite plate. Do I need granite?
I think so.
That
Granite
heavy.
ware or something.
But it's not this
No, that's-
porcelain, but it's that heavy.
It's not granite.
Stoneware.
Stoneware, oh,
yeah.
dishes.
Yeah.
And there's a coffee grinder in there, apple peeler.
Yeah, and talking about that old-fashioned apple peeler in there, I was so fascinated with that when I saw it, and I found out that you can still buy them.
Yes.
So I bought one, and I've had more fun. I've got two little grandchildren, one that's 7, one that's 4, and when they come over, they run to get an apple and want to do that the very first day. And I thought, oh, that's a nice thing to hand down to
Sure.
them.
Yeah,
But it's really fun for kids to do.
well, that'd be neat if, for people in the Area 7, that they could see that ahead of time before they come and maybe have their
Right,
pictures.
there's a
go in.
grater for grating like orange rind or nutmeg or something like that.
Okay, good, well, that's good to know, because there's no sense reinventing the wheel. That sort of thing, except for the people outside our area, I guess.
There's a little pestle, there's a little miniature sugar bucket.
The next thing we'll do is chores. As I was looking around, one of the things that struck me was that we could do something that would be sort of along the idea of the Mulberry Bush song, like this is the day we wash our clothes, this is the day we mend our clothes or iron our clothes or whatever. And I thought, well, you know, we don't need to really stop there. We're talking about farm families, and we really ought to go into farm chores and that sort of thing too. And so I looked for things that would start us out in that direction. And one of the things that I saw in every one of these antique stores was the old washboard. And I mean, that seemed like it'd be such a weekly part of your life, something you just could never get away from, and you can't get away from it today. And so I got one of these, and then I also I didn't bring it over today because it's too big, but I got a big wash tub, you know, that's out of this same kind of stuff. It's probably galvanized, and I'm not sure that that's typical of that era or not, but I thought it would at least give them the idea of a wash tub, and that, you know, you had to pour the water into that, and you didn't have a washing machine, and you didn't have a bathtub necessarily, and, you know.
I'll bring soap.
Had the pump.
Well, they should know too that they didn't get a clean shirt every single morning or every afternoon or
Right.
3 times a day.
That's what I tell them with the clothes brush. I said, now you think about it. If you had to carry your water and you had to heat it and all that sort of thing, are you going to be washing clothes every day? And are you going to be, you know, just very nonchalant about the way you run around and get dirty and that sort of thing? And, you know, no, you have to be a little bit more careful. You have to brush your clothes off instead of just throwing them into the wash. And you probably only did wash once a week.
And the children had to change their clothing after school.
And
Did
get into
not-
chore clothes.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
part I remember is hanging clothes out in the wintertime. And they were frozen solid. I just
Yeah.
hated that.
And the long,
They smell good
the
though.
long-legged winter underwear.
Yeah.
I did that in South Carolina. We lived out in a log house, and I had a clothesline, and I didn't have a dryer, and so I did have a washer, so I washed, but then I would hang my clothes outside in the winter. And then finally, I got dry racks and hung things inside on the dry racks. That was a little
I worked for a big family of little children one summer, several summers. And I washed everybody's feet. We got one wash dish of water, but I washed 8 pair of feet through that water every night.
The wash pan.
And water was a little thick by then.
And then this tub that you're talking about, wash tub, then that was our bathtub.
Right.
Saturday night.
That was
Yeah.
Saturday night's bath.
And
Yeah,
it's just
right.
once a week that you take a bath, or
Usually.
No.
Wednesday, Saturday?
Oh.
Okay.
Another family that I had at school, one little boy came to school rubbing himself. And I said, John, what's the matter? He said, I burnt myself. And I said, what happened? And he said, you know what? We were taking baths. And I backed up against the stove.
Oh,
And he says, you know what? Ma says, if we're good, we can have a bath next week.
It was a reward, huh?
yeah. And then I got the pail and
Dipper.
ladle, dipper.
Have a whole paragraph on germs because everybody drank out of the same dipper.
Right.
That's right.
And that's what we tell them when we show them the crock pot, or not crock pot, the crock
Water.
water cooler, right. And so I thought I would have this so they could actually see what preceded that, so they could see the progression that we went through.
Could you not find the other kind of a pail, the granite?
I probably could find one somewhere. What I'm gonna do is put it on the wish list and see if we can get that donated to us. And it would also, it's just a matter of time. I mean, I just I know they have the old kind around that aren't the shiny kind, but I just.
Enamel, it should be.
Enamel,
Should be like
Okay.
your roaster there.
the Greystone type stuff?
Well, ours was
Granite.
tan or something.
Okay.
You know, the where it peels off, picks off if it gets hit.
So it is enamel then, I would guess. Mhm, enamel, okay. See, these are some of the things I need to get from you, is what I need for this wish list too, because I'm just in the process of writing that up. I've got a rough draft written up now, and we're gonna send the newsletter out in the next 2 weeks, so if you have any suggestions.
Sometimes on the old rural school, out by the pump, they had a cup on a sort of a chain or something. That was usually a metal cup, a tin cup, we call it. And it would hold approximately a pint, I think. And that was fastened to the pump, supposedly to keep it there. And everyone used the same. You pumped the water and then used the same cup to drink
Yeah.
from.
You should have an old Montgomery Ward catalog too, you know.
Oh, for the outhouse? Yeah, okay. Let's see, this was baking day. I just, decided on the rolling pin. I thought that would be sort of, that's what I think of when I think of baking, is rolling out dough. Let's see, and then I got one of these balls that I guess is made into the rag rug type stuff.
Then you made it into rugs.
Yeah.
You braided it.
And I asked in the wish list for a small braided rug, see if I can get that. And then this was the flour sack that we got. I just
Oh, you
thought
found
this-
one.
Yeah, with the dog on it, and it's some grain elevator place.
Oklahoma.
Geary Mill and Elevator Company, Geary, Oklahoma, bleached True Friend flour.
My bloomers said Mother's Best across there, and I thought
Oh, nice. Great.
That's appropriate.
that was so.
Let's see, and then another thing, one of the woman down at the antique store here, Kathy Spear, in Waterloo, gave me one of her extras that I could make into rags for the slates. So if you ever want to show the kids, a slate rag, and I usually just have them use their hand for their sleeve, And, you know, I said, well, what would you have done, you know, if you didn't have an eraser back in those days? Well, we have to use our hand to
Petticoat.
lick it, or, you know.
Petticoat.
Oh, petticoat, okay, well, they weren't wearing petticoats, Marines.
No, we still have slates in school that we use, and we use a sock.
Oh,
on
that's a
that.
good idea, an old sock.
An old sock works
Sure.
really great on them.
Okay, I hadn't thought of that, but that is a good idea. So, anyway, I made up a set of these, so if you ever wanna use those, you know, you're welcome to, or, you know, just show them one, you know, kids might have had something like this, an old flour sack that their mom sent with them. And then came upon this thing, which I understand is for darning.
Darning.
Socks, okay, and for darning, you just use regular thread, I guess, and, no? What would you use?
Darning's cotton.
Oh, we use just regular thread.
No, darning cotton.
Oh, so either, depends on who you were and your family, I
And
guess.
you can still get good darning cotton over at the Amish stores,
Oh, I'm sure you could.
over at Hazelton,
Oh,
over here by
okay.
Old Line.
That would have been a place for you to pick up some
Yeah.
items that are new.
Okay, what kind of, is it like a general store, or?
Yes, and you have to drive right into the little village of Littleton or whatever town it would be. They'll have one building that is the store.
Okay,
And you can get oatmeal by great big sacks and everything like that.
well, that's a good idea.
They buy food in the bulk,
Mhm.
and then
I've got a darning story to tell you. When I can still remember, as a very, very small little girl, I wanted to please my father. So he had some socks that had big holes in them. And I don't know what kind of thread I used. I think I used just regular old thread. And I sewed and I sewed and I sewed and I was so proud. I took them up and gave them to my father, and he tried to put them on. He couldn't get his feet into them. I can still remember that.
Oh dear, you were crying.
I was trying.
That's like when I made 2 cakes, and I didn't have the foggiest idea what I was doing, except I'd seen my mother do it once or twice. And I poured all these ingredients in. This one we didn't have much money. And, you know, used up all the flour, and I was putting cocoa in, and, you know, all sorts of stuff.
Like Dennis the Menace.
And I mean, it turned out just terrible. It was like brick rubber, sort of. She made me eat it. She said, you know, if you're gonna waste all our flour, Debbie, without asking, you can eat it. And so I did, and I never baked afterwards. This was old embroidery thread that I got out of my grandmother's sewing basket. I love the shiny.
sort of a silk.
Yeah, it says washing directions, a very brilliant artificial fiber, wash with ivory soap and warm water, press when nearly dry.
What was that?
Stylix rope.
What was that used for?
I don't know.
I think-
I just, like embroidery was what I figured, you know, some sort of needlework on the stuff. And then the thimble, and were these were like sewing threads, or, I don't know.
That's more like darning cotton.
Was this darning cotton?
But
Okay.
the darning cotton I always used was 4-ply, and this is just one. But
Okay.
And could this be like crochet too?
Oh, I don't think that's crochet.
Oh, you know?
I remember seeing those, but I don't
Yeah, I
remember.
think that could be used for tatting.
Oh.
Well, but it's the feel, it's soft.
Oh, is
And
it too
Yeah,
soft?
it's real soft.
Oh, maybe then it's
I-
probably for darning.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so soft, it wouldn't injure your
And I'm sure that it's very
sensitive
strong.
skin on your feet.
And this was a little embroidery hoop.
Well, every little girl learned to embroider by the time she was in 1st grade. She made, she
A
embroidered.
sampler of some
No,
sort,
well,
or-
I embroidered the corner of a dish towel, didn't you?
Yeah.
All the towels had to be embroidered.
Yeah,
I
right.
had a terrible time. I was left-handed, and people had a tough time trying to teach me
Yeah.
all those things I was supposed to learn.
Yeah, I'm with you too.
I am
It took me forever to learn to knit. And I tried. I finally learned right-handed because they just gave up trying to
Right.
teach me left-handed.
I did too.
The old-time clothespin, were these used back
Oh, yes.
1910, 1920 figure? Okay. Right. And then this, I was told, was put under hens to make them lay.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
That's real.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make
That's true.
sure,
Yeah.
check my story.
Well, if you
That's it.
took the egg away from the hen, then
Yeah.
she would go over there to hide it the next time. I mean, she would learn in a hurry. If you took your egg, she was going to get away with it. So to keep her here, you put something like that.
To make her think she still had eggs.
She still had her egg, and then, because she was trying to lay enough eggs to have a clutch of eggs to hatch.
Uh-huh,
And if you took them away, you upset her.
uh-huh.
So then she'd go behind the barn to hide them.
Okay,
Yeah, it was
sneak
a-
away.
Yeah, that's
That's-
true.
it's-
Then
So
they
that's
come
called a
out with
nest egg.
whole batch of
Mhm.
chickens or ducks,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's called a nest egg.
Okay. Let's see, I think that's all of the things that I have for chores. If, you know, again, if we were adding to our kit for chores, what sorts of things? Now, I was thinking like a scrubbing brush, if I could find anything like that, like scrubbing floors.
You should have an
A
old bucket
broom.
with cobs in it for kindling.
Okay, bucket with corn cobs. So, a bucket, the old enamel bucket that you were telling me about?
No, more like your coal bucket.
Coal bucket.
Coal bucket,
Where it
okay.
slopes out one way.
You've got a
Okay.
coal bucket back here, don't you?
I don't think we do, but I know what you're talking about, where it has sort of like the lip on it,
Mhm.
yeah. And, okay,
Just,
And
and
then
also, a lot of times, we'd have our cobs in a basket, bushel basket.
okay.
Yeah.
And kindling, we kept, you know, 'cause it took a
Well, I
lot of
hated to
that.
pick those things up.
Be a bushel basket like peaches came
Yes.
in or something. See,
Yeah, I remember those
you
when I was a
saved
kid.
everything like that, and then it
Yeah.
became a
Apples and
utility.
Apple baskets.
Mm,
They used to have orange trees too.
Yeah.
Our family story about kindling. Our granddaughter came when she was about 5th grade. She said, I have to interview some old people about the chores they did. And so she had come down to see us. And she said, did you do after school? And I said, it was my job always to get in the kindling. And if we couldn't find chips of wood or nice clean cobs, we had to go into the hog block. And she said, well, I'm not going to tell them that.
Disgusting. Oh dear. What sorts of chores did the kids have to do after school if you were a farm?
Gather the
Get
eggs.
the eggs.
Oh, and then
Gather
some of them, they had broken the egg in the nest. Oh, I hated to get those out. Then you had to wash them off.
Or then you'd have maybe an old hen peck you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to try to get in there and get the egg without getting
That's right.
Yes.
clobbered.
Since the homes did not have running water, you went out, pumped the water into a big pail larger than the pail you have, carried it in, and you filled the reservoir on the wood stove.
That's right.
And then if mother was going to wash the next day, she had her copper boiler up on the stove, and that had to be also filled so she could let it heat overnight, and the white clothes got soaked in that boiler with the shaved laundry soap and things of that sort, so it was ready for the next morning.
Boiled and boiled.
And
White
boiled.
clothes got boiled.
They came out quite white.
Yes, they did. They did. They really did.
Okay. What about the boys? What sort of chores? I mean, did they have to like help take care of the animals and that sort of
You
thing?
did all
Morning
things
and
on the
night.
farm.
Morning and night.
I had to help with the chores down at the barn with the cattle and the hogs, but I also got the water in, got the kindling in and the wood in for the, of course ours was a wood burning kitchen stove. So those things had to be done when you came home from school. You had quite a list of chores to be responsible for.
Well, the thing I can remember is the boys at school smelled like the cow barn,
Yes, from
much like the cow barn.
that was another reason, though, somebody mentioned earlier, that the children usually came home in most homes and changed into what they called their work clothes. And you still put those on in the morning for work until you had the morning chores done. Then you went in and got into your school clothes, which is nothing only a clean or better pair of jeans or overalls and shirt. It helped to remove that smell, but I do know what you mean. Many times it still came
Well,
through.
sometimes you didn't have two pairs of shoes, you wore the same
No,
shoes.
it'd be the shoe that you would smell from there walking in the,
Manure.
and manure out
Yeah.
of the barn and the lots.
Okay.
Some children didn't have time to get that done. I
That's
know when
right.
I was in high school, and it was very noticeable.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'd go check their trap lines on the way to school, and we had a few come smelling like skunk or whatever.
Okay. Are there any,
You might have young animals, calves or sheep or something, have to be fed by the bottle.
The babies.
Yeah, there were lots of
kids just don't have any concept of today. They just have to get themselves up and go.
They didn't say no, they just simply did what they were told to do.
Mhm.
I think
And-
that is
Yeah.
quite a comparison with our modern home and the home of the period we're speaking. Children today have so few chores or responsibilities. And when I used to, in teaching at the laboratory school here, would speak to the parents about helping their children to learn to be responsible, they'd say, but what can I have him do? And I'd start saying, well, couldn't you have him make his own bed, at least through the week? Oh heavens, he couldn't do that.
Yeah, right.
Or I'd say, well, couldn't you have him dry dishes? Oh, he'd think that was a girl's job. And you know, I sometimes would be worn out trying to make suggestions that could teach responsibility.
Sure.
I think children definitely ought to grow up with home responsibilities.
Sure, yeah.
And even though they're different today than when we grew up, they're still responsibilities.
They're not that different.
That's-
I mean, you still have to wash dishes. and-
Basically,
And if they don't do it, you have to do it. I mean, that's the way I feel, so my kids get their fair share. Okay, let's look at clothes. I don't have too many things with me here. I did bring a skirt that was my grandmother's. Let's see.
Now that box is a cheese box, isn't it? Your big round box,
Yeah,
that was a cheese box?
that's a cheese box. Okay, now this was a skirt that my
Ooh.
grandmother had, and I was
Beautiful.
wondering, was this something that you would have worn to school? She was a school teacher.
Oh, for tea.
It must have been, I think it's a party skirt.
Party skirt?
Probably
Okay.
it's church.
Yeah, a church.
They wouldn't wear anything white like this to school anyway.
So they wear dark clothing
No.
more
And a white blouse.
and a white blouse? Okay, 'cause that was something I just wasn't.
Pretty.
Beautiful.
You could almost still wear
Look
it.
at that small
Yes,
face.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was hoping I could wear it to teach school, but if it wasn't appropriate, then I won't. Because I have a black one out in the other building that I do. Okay, then these were boots that I got, and I didn't know, are these too fancy? Would
Sunday
this be like
shoes.
Sunday?
Sunday shoes.
Sunday
Okay.
shoes.
Then that's what we will tell them they are. It's Sunday shoes. And
Yeah, we didn't call those boots at all.
No, Sunday shoes.
then these were the women's shoes that I found. Would this be like school teacher type shoes, do you think, or is that too,
No, I think that's okay.
those are
That's
okay? Okay. What amazed me is how
Real
thin.
narrow.
Like,
Yeah,
what
real
period
narrow.
were you
Yeah,
thinking-
that-
What period were you thinking of? for these?
1900 to 1920 is the era that we're,
Yeah.
And there were some way up tall ones
That
too.
came up.
For that time.
Yeah.
My mother had some.
buttons on, button hook on them. That'd be an interesting thing to
Yeah.
have with a button hook.
I
button
bought
hook, okay. Somebody else mentioned that to me. Okay, I'll
Need a
try.
button shoe.
Okay.
I had a pair of those when I was a little girl, I remember, and struggling with that button hook.
Mhm.
Oh, it was hard.
Then we have a camisole, which I didn't bring with me, I don't think. Oh, no. I got a few more things. Okay, hankies. I just, picked up a couple of those. I wanted to have something for drop the hanky.
Oh.
If we ever played that outside, just to give them an idea that people didn't use Kleenexes back then. They
Well,
had
little
hankies.
girls and mothers always had to have a fancy
Oh,
hanky
yes.
to church.
Okay, and to
Yeah, they were-
school, it sounds like they
I
brought a
don't know.
hanky of some sort
Oh, yes.
for
Oh,
their
yeah.
health inspection,
Oh,
I think
yes,
you're talking
they had-
about.
yeah, they had
Clean
hanky.
hanky.
And then this is more like a man's.
That's a man's Sunday handkerchief.
hanky. Okay.
You need a man's red handkerchief.
Like a
the boys-
bandana?
Right, that's what the
Oh,
boys,
yes.
that's what the boys had.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one of those that I use for bird bees fish. And, so I could, use that for clothing also. And the thing I loved about this apron was that it doesn't have strings, and they just pinned it onto their clothes, she said. She said this is probably sort of maybe a
Fancy.
Sunday
Oh, yes.
type apron. And it's got the lacy type stuff.
So you always had an apron that covered the top, was
Gray,
your work.
For
gray
working.
gingham.
And this was a camisole. Is that I don't know, front and back, I guess like that.
That's pretty.
And, let's see, what's this one? Oh, this was sort of an overblouse type thing that I guess
Oh,
I
that
must
was
have had
for teaching
something
school.
underneath
Oh, your camisole.
the camisole. Would there be anything besides that?
Well, your, corset top.
Would you wear a jacket or
Your corset, and then that,
just
and then
a
that.
camisole and
Yeah.
then this, and that's
Yeah.
it? Okay. And this is sort of
You need a
frayed.
corset.
From what I've read about them, I don't think I want one. Sounded terrible. Okay, these were some,
Oh.
this is from my grandmother. This was, I
Oh,
guess
an
an
old
early
baby?
baby
Oh,
with
yeah,
a
yes.
bottom that
Rompers.
opens.
Rompers.
Rompers.
Rompers, is that what
Oh.
they're called? Okay. But I thought these were so,
Oh, so that
I mean,
would've
this
been for a
baby
little
must have
boy.
been fat.
Well, that would have been for a toddler.
Yeah, but
No,
they
what?
didn't fit.
Oh,
They
they
were
were just big blousey.
Yeah, just big blousey.
Yeah, I mean, it just looked like it was such a fat.
That's his Sunday outfit too, please.
Oh, okay. And then this was another plain, to me, this looks sort of like a work skirt. I don't know.
My mother never worked in skirts like that.
No,
No,
they
they always wore dresses.
Yeah, the
My
calico-
mother did
calico
never wear
type.
skirt and blouse.
Doesn't
That
look
has to be
familiar
like for a young girl, I would guess.
Okay, not for an adult.
to me.
I can't.
Okay. Now, this was something that we think might be a little bit older, like maybe 20s, into the 20s, or 30s even.
Is this speed sack material?
It looks like it.
No, that's not feed sack.
It's just a cotton, I think.
But it was a lot like
But it's all
trim
hand
was in the
sewn.
feed sack. Yeah, it's all.
And it's got little snaps.
That would be a dress that an 8th grade girl would wear to school.
Okay.
When I went to school, but I don't know what.
That looks to me like early 40s to
Yeah.
me.
Oh, it's
Well-
that late?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
You could get the
Would you?
typical old house dress, they weren't much fit to them, they just kind of fell down.
Sort of
My mother
hung.
always wore a house dress, is what she called it.
Yeah, printed.
It was almost like
Yeah.
a house coat is now.
Yeah.
But then she always wore an all-over apron over it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
With the bib
Yeah,
part up.
oh, yeah.
Okay.
And it was gray.
I don't think ours was always great,
I
but
don't
it
think so
sure,
either.
it sure fit all
Yeah.
over and came
Covered
clear
it,
around
right.
the back.
Well, but she wore that dress all week, the dress all
Oh,
week.
yeah?
She might have gotten a clean apron every day.
Okay, this was a glove box, and I was told that this type of burnt box was real popular back in this era. And then there was a pair of gloves,
Oh.
Sunday
Fancy.
type fancy gloves. And then a belt buckle,
Oh, yeah.
and then just, I got one fancy button, just to give you an idea of the kinds of really nifty things.
You dressed up, you always wore gloves because your hands were so rough and red from all the work you'd been doing. I remember my mother with these fancy gloves she put on Sunday to cover it up.
Huh, okay, and I never thought of that, but that's exactly true. And then one of the antique people gave me this fan, said there was a whole language with the fan, you know. it's
Well,
for,
but we didn't use that language, did you?
Meet me later.
Used them to cool off with, it was real hot inside.
But it wasn't that fancy. a
No, we
fan.
had,
No.
we had the fans
Paddle
provided
fans?
by the
No, funeral
home.
the funeral homes, had them all in the church pews.
Yeah, I remember those two from when I was a kid, yeah. Anyway. Okay. Let's see.
That's a neat box.
Yes, it is.
Oh, this is an old-time box, and it has the,
Dynamite.
yeah, dynamite. I thought the boys would get a charge.
I like that.
And
Isn't that
then
called dovetail?
dovetailing, yeah. And this is the start, well, this has got an old-time eraser that somebody gave us. I mean, it's seen better days. And dustless eraser of superior quality from New York.
And if you were naughty, you stayed in recess, after school, and we cleaned
Outside.
the
Yeah.
erasers.
And then I got just a couple of blocks here that have like the letters and then little pictures imprinted or engraved on them. Indian I, A. And she said the ones that had these grooves were the older kind. And I thought in the wish list I'd ask for a set of
You can
wooden
buy
blocks
those
and
out
see if we can get an older authentic pair. And then I got dominoes because I figured those have been around for.
Those look like pretty old ones.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
they
with
are.
that building on there, yeah. That's kind of like we had back in the 30s.
Okay, so we're getting close to our era. This is Fofo Youngberg from New Hartford. And Jean Hall, remember her? And Ruth Brome, our Lord Ingalls Welder expert. And Vivian Shane, whom you already know, I think. And Eunice Purdy. And Brenda.
Hi, good to see you all. I've been out finding out about my taxes.
And
I had a really late morning.
What we've been doing,
That's right.
we've just been going through the different items in the kits, and they've been telling me all sorts of things about this. So, yeah, we're really learning a lot here. And getting more ideas for the wish list, too.
That's great. Well, I just wanted to tell you that we appreciate all your, all your work on the Wonder School so much, and it's really kind of input like this that we get that it really makes it, plus it makes it fun and it makes it authentic. It's great.
It's kind of our pleasure.
Well, good.
This, I didn't know for sure if this was
Yeah.
part of the toys, but
Yeah,
it seemed like it was
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
probably would be. And so I got the oldest kind that I could
Yeah, well,
find.
that's,
Okay, so,
I didn't have any like that when I was a kid, but my kids had.
well, I don't know, we did in our country school.
Yeah,
You did?
had a set
We
of
did
that.
too.
okay.
Just like that.
Yeah,
Good
they-
for fine motor
Yes,
coordination.
definitely, yeah.
Okay,
And to
so-
keep them quiet.
See, I didn't know they actually used them in the school, so
No?
that's nice to know that. They had, it when kids would finish their work, then they could go do.
Well,
or
recess.
Yeah, when it was
Rainy day.
Recess,
Yeah.
rainy day,
Yeah.
lunch,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Cold outside, which wasn't too often.
Okay, and then this is a cribbage.
We didn't
Board.
have that.
And I was told that sometimes, you know, like if you lost the pegs, they just sort of whittled pegs
Matchsticks.
and, oh, matchsticks, that would be, okay, so I could get just regular
Kitchen.
old wooden matchsticks.
Kitchen match.
Yeah, the wooden ones.
Yeah.
right. Okay, and then
Farm.
so,
But now she wouldn't find that in school,
No, because that's,
no,
because see, you wouldn't bring those other cards to school.
cards. Okay, cards go with cribbage. I've never played cribbage, so I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, not cool at school.
no,
Okay,
that was
these,
naughty,
these things,
Wicked.
wicked.
sinful.
Pool parlor. Pool parlor type stuff. Okay,
That would be like, you know,
at home.
at home, I guess. We didn't have
Okay.
that.
Not at our house.
That sure, no.
We didn't need
How
it.
about the dominoes? Would
Oh,
this
yeah.
be
Oh,
strictly
yes,
at home or at
yes.
school?
Both.
Both. And wooden blocks, just at home or
Oh,
both? Okay. Good. Then we have this wonderful game, if I can find it. Where did I put it? Oh, right here.
Without TV, you had to have games.
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, I love
Especially
this game.
scissors.
This is an old drum board,
Oh, yeah.
okay?
Oh, yes.
Here.
You shot little rings
And
into the corner.
on this side
See,
is the, excuse me. Let's see, I'm gonna do this differently. I'm gonna get these things.
We didn't have one of those at school.
No,
No,
we
we
didn't have
didn't
that
either.
school.
Now, all these things don't have to be school items. Some of these things are just gonna be stuff that are from the era to give the kids an idea of what it was like to live back in those times in general. It helps me to know which things would have been school and which would definitely be home items. So this looks like a home item we're talking about. Okay. And somehow or other, these caroms, I understand it, were pinged off the side and then they land back in. Now, could you just use this for checkers?
Yes.
Also? Okay, so we just use these as the way we use checkers today. Okay, and then on the other side, this is the part I really like. On the other side is 17th century game of shuffleboard is one thing. attends party caucus, race for the White House, attends party caucus, elected alderman, elected county clerk, appointed postmaster of a large city, elected to the legislature, nominated for mayor but defeated, mayor of a large city, retired to private life with political aspirations. And then, just go through the whole thing. And then at the end, let's see, Secretary of State moved into the large square on the raised field. And then somehow or other you get into the White House. And then you become the president.
Never ever seen, no, I never seen anything.
1898.
Oh.
Okay, well, you've never seen it, huh?
Must have been for a rich kid.
At school that we didn't even have any equipment for.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Button.
some other things that I put on our wish list that I wanted to get were like the old handmade dolls, rag dolls, and I think at one point, this is probably too early, but they had like the China head doll, and then there was is it acetate head, or that's maybe not quite. Porcelain. There's another kind of head that's starting to look more like skin that the woman at the antique shop told me was coming in around the turn of the century and into the 20s. But anyway, I wanted to get an old-time doll before Barbie hit the scene, and I wanted to try and get an old train set.
That'll be a good trick.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Marbles, which are worth their weight in gold.
Jacks?
Jacks, okay, were those? Now, when I played jacks, we had a golf ball that we used. What, did you use just like a little red rubber ball?
Sponge ball.
Okay, we used those too, but we were using golf balls by the time I was a kid.
That was the most wonderful game invented.
Jacks, and we had jacks contests and, everything.
Yo-yos too.
Okay, a yo-yo, I hadn't thought of that. Any other?
Jump ropes, do kids use jump ropes?
We would have like, short hay ropes almost, the great big ones, and then
like out of sisal or something?
two people would turn, But it was like hay rope. It was, the big heavy.
Sisal, probably, something, that's twined, braided, Okay.
One of my talents is making rope too. I don't know whether you're going to.
Oh. We haven't explored the possibilities with you yet.
Making rope is one of my better.
But I will definitely interview you. See what we can come up with, because I think you're going to be a wonderful person to have work with us. Okay. Well, I think we're on the road as far as getting some things to let them know that, people weren't sitting around playing Nintendo hour after hour and this sort of thing. There were a lot of different types of games that were popular back in that era. Okay, now, what else have we got? We're almost done here, folks.
Little red wagon and the bicycle was pretty important.
Well, we just played
Yeah.
Kitty car for the baby.
You drew this across there, and then you used Excel or something. And if you get 3 in line, then you won.
One of the other, you've already seen part of this kit. Paul showed you most of it, but there's also like a shaving brush in here, and then I wanted to get a shaving mug added to it, and then castor oil. I mean, I've heard some of the stories about castor oil.
You never told your mother you didn't feel good. Because if you did, you got a good dose.
That cured
It was a
It
cure.
cured
Didn't
everything.
hurt.
You didn't complain often. Is what it really helped.
Foul, for what I mean, it's absolutely awful stuff. You just didn't ever want to have to.
And there was cod liver oil to build up your resistance in the winter.
And then the old-timey pocket watch.
An asafoetida bag on around your neck.
Now, what was that?
Oh, it's foul smelling stuff. And you put it in a little bag and wore it around your neck, and it kept you from catching a cold. Well, the reason it kept you from catching a cold, no one ever got close to you that had cold germs.
It sounds almost like Dracula, keep away the vampires.
That's like had those old poultices too,
Yes.
that you,
Oh.
when you had
When
a
you got
bed.
cold?
Yeah, you had to, yeah, and you had to heat it up and put it on your chest, and it felt, the warmth was good, but the smell was terrible.
Yeah.
Mustard plasters?
Yeah, yeah,
And
right.
we had Vicks, a Vicks thing that we put on if we were, had a cold, and then you'd have to put that on and sleep with it. Oh, it was just,
Mentholate 'em.
That was another thing that I thought would be fun to get into was the medicines, because they have such outrageous advertisings that went along with them, cure everything type stuff. And I thought, if anybody had things like, that's another thing I should put on the wish list is medicine bottles or containers, because, that's something I found fascinating as a child, was just reading those advertisements. And I found one, this isn't medicine, but it's something that I thought was just so cute. Little Fairy's Bath Perfume Powder should be in every bathroom. It is not a luxury, but a necessity. When you feel dusty, tired, worn out, or you are wet with perspiration and out of sorts, add a heaping tablespoonful of Little Fairy's Bath Perfume to your bath water and enjoy a revelation in comfort and pleasure. Of course, all these words are capitalized, comfort, pleasure. Its fragrant odor reminds you of the pine forests of the north, and its refreshing, cleansing qualities make it indispensable for the nursery as well as the toilet and bathroom. Add a half a teaspoonful of Little Fairy's Bath Perfume to every basinful of warm water and wash your hands and face. Grow smooth and soft. Always rinse with cold water to close pores before drying and going out. For sore, aching, hot, tired, or swollen feet, use 1 heaping tablespoonful to a pailful of warm water and bathe your feet 10 minutes, adding hot water to keep it pleasantly warm. This is my favorite line. For sweaty, malodorous feet, Little Fairy's Bath Perfume is worth more than its weight in gold.
what's the front of
And
it?
it's never been opened. It's probably taped hard.
I've never heard of that.
Smells dusty.
But, whether it was typical or not, the type of advertising just
Well,
strikes
that's
me
what
as
she had to pay for.
what I had to pay for.
It says, here it says it's worth $1.
Yeah. And then these are little tiny glasses, which some little child wore.
No,
No,
grown-ups
that was
wore those
grandmother's.
too.
Those are grandmothers.
Well, no,
Well, but
that looked like about a 6th grader.
yeah, my first ones are maybe like,
See
yeah,
how-
but I could black around the edge.
The thing that made me think of her kids is look at how,
Yeah, my
Tiny
brother and
little-
sister both had glasses like that
Yeah.
in country school.
And the worst thing that could happen to you when you wore these around behind your ears, somebody hit you on the ear. Oh,
yeah.
that hurt.
And then the last item that I had here was the very first lessons at the piano by Mrs. Crosby Adams. And, it just is an old time. It seems like a lot of kids today still are taking piano lessons, and I thought they might enjoy seeing what an old time piano book was like. And this one's been written in and used.
They didn't have the red one, John Williams.
No,
That was the
I
one
didn't
that-
know that. I grew up on John Thompson.
Oh, maybe that's
That
why.
was
I'm
the
thinking
red
John
covers.
Thompson.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm thinking
Yeah.
John Thompson.
There was Williams though, too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, it was Williams.
Fullerton, Mr. Fullerton's, oh, that was for singing.
For the
wasn't it?
girls' school
Yeah,
singing.
that was singing.
I mean, he developed
Charles,
that.
wasn't it Charles?
Right.
And it
Charles
said ISTC on it.
Right.
Okay, like here's one, the tug of war. One of the things that we talk about are the games, and tug of war is one, of course. And they have a song here to go with that. Pull, lads, pull, the tug of war has come. With might and main and right goodwill, we'll hold the rope against them still. Pull, lads, pull, the tug of war has come. It's either a tug of war or it's a war song. I think it's a tug of war.
Why don't you try to get on your wish list, one of the old Fullerton songbooks for the country schools?
Okay.
I think I have one.
I have one at home, but I wouldn't want to,
Give it
give it
up.
up.
Yeah,
but,
somebody who's willing
I think
to
I
give
have
you
more
more.
than one, maybe, unless I tried to clean out and gave it away.
Yeah. Okay.
They were very good, and then they had activities in the back so that, to do.
Okay. Another thing that we're asking for are just educational books of the era, the 1900 to 1920 era. And then another item that I wanted to put on was children's storybooks, because I wanted some idea, the kids to have some idea that, children read and were read to, and it wasn't before TV and the radio, and that sort of thing, books were very important in storytelling and sort of the oral type.
Well, but a lot of the games we played didn't need anything, like Pump Pump Pull Away
Right.
and
Annie Over.
Annie Over. We played Annie Over by the
Kick the
hour.
can?
No, we didn't play Kick the Can, but we played Annie
We
Over by
played
the
it.
hour.
Yeah, well, that was a favorite of mine.
Musical chairs.
Yeah. Fox and Geese in the Snow, and Drop the Hanky, Tag,
Pump Pump Pull Away.
yeah.
Put an eraser on your head, and then you had relay, and then you had to run around your row of seats, and then pass it to the next one, and they put it on and
okay.
around.
We just had a tag with the eraser,
Uh-huh.
a tag, and then we had another one, like a train where they name, what's that called, where they name a vegetable, and then they had to, you each had a vegetable.
Upset the fruit basket
Yeah, fruit basket upset, that's it.
on a rainy day.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And Hide the Thimble.
Oh, yes.
I've
But-
used that with the kids here, and they like that real well. When I didn't, I had to remember this from my childhood, like 40 years ago, and I couldn't quite remember, I had them hide the thimble, and then, when I just had them clap their hands as they got closer to it. Did you ever do it that way?
No.
Did you ever give them a clue?
You say you're
Getting
getting
warmer.
You're getting
Yeah.
warm,
Warmer.
getting
Hot.
warmer.
Yeah, cold,
Warmer,
cold,
warmer,
hot,
hot.
yeah,
Okay, so they could just
Yeah.
yell it out.
yeah.
Okay.
Button, button, who's got the button?
Yeah, I got some buttons, some old-time buttons for that, so that they would have actual authentic buttons.
What did we do when we slid something? That was button. We slid it on a rope.
I was
yes.
thinking of the string with
The
the button
thing
in
on
the
the
middle.
thread.
Oh,
You
that was
We, the
old.
string went
Button.
clear around the circle.
Oh, no,
Oh.
we didn't, I don't think we didn't have that.
No.
You
used
know
to
what
put
I
a-
mean with the
yeah,
string
yeah,
and
yeah.
then the big
Yeah,
button in the
Yeah,
middle?
and then you pull on the ends and the button,
And the
whirls
button
around the middle.
Squirrels?
Uh-huh.
And
Just so it doesn't,
I think that goes in with one of the string games, isn't it?
And then we could, the string, and then you made cat's cradle.
Yeah, right.
No, there's a button deal, and you just, it's just like this, and then when you
So
get it
almost like
threaded
a
up
yo-yo,
right.
only
Yeah,
it's-
Yeah,
sort
and
of
you
like-
pull on the ends like this, and the button turns around the middle somehow.
Huh.
that was another thing we always saved was the grocery string, so that you can,
Oh,
everybody had a
yes.
ball of grocery
Oh,
string.
yes. That's a standing joke now, my kids.
You still save it?
Well, yeah, I still do.
You don't ever
They don't
get
save
it.
a thing.
Yeah, it's like
And I
I save all
had a
the,
neighbor too one time, she was the best housekeeper in the world, and I probably might have been about the worst. But she'd always come for all these resources to my house, because I kept
you
her
keep everything, yeah.
about anything.
Yeah, I keep all the rubber bands from our newspapers. It's like that. I grew up with the same.
Then there was a
mentality.
lady that kept the string to use and the string that was too short to use.
Oh,
Had it all separated out.
Well, we kept it in a ball, I mean, you tied, so it was.
Kept adding on and adding on, okay. Well, I think I've gotten through everything that I need to go through, and I just really want to thank you for helping me find out about how all these things are used and suggestions for other items that we need to get.
reminiscing has been so
Yeah,
much
it's
fun.
fun, isn't it? Haven't thought of some of
I've
these things for
forgotten
many,
so
many years,
much.
and all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's just so
It's fun,
relevant
yeah,
now.
yeah. it's
And
fun.
so this is stuff that is all new to these kids. I mean, it's new to me, so imagine, take away another 30, 35 years of it. It's that much more new for
I didn't know we were so full of
kids
history.
today.
You might just go over there to Area 7 sometime
And look at their kit.
and look at their kit.
Yeah.
There's two of them. One of them's more for the foods, and the other one's like button hook and all those other things we need to look at.
Yeah. They have kits already. They have Area 7 does. Yeah.
And they have several sets of them, so they can be out at several schools at one
Cool.
time, and they let you keep it 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time.
Okay, so when we do ours, what we have to do is do something different, not do the same stuff that they're doing.
And you've got some nice things that they don't have.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can bring a button hook, but then will some of you bring a pair of shoes with buttons?
I have a button hook at home. I
Did,
have a button.
did Paul, or wasn't it Paul that had the round box there? Did he say what that box was used for?
Cat box, yeah. For traveling, he
Yes.
told me that this was, and it's a wonderful case
Yeah,
to
that
put
was,
things in.
that
It's
was
really,
for hat box for training.
yeah.
But you also stored it when you were home, didn't you?
We used to have it.
Oh, boy.
Now, I'm hoping I can get like a small clothes trunk to put the clothing in, and we're gonna ask for clothing so that, we'll have it like for the reenactment that we had at home, and we had college kids and grade school children, and we, asked them to dress up, but it's hard to come up with some of these things. And so we thought we had like a clothing trunk full of things, and then maybe if some of our research people would like to, put on an old-time dress or something like that, then we have those things available too. So, now, we may get nothing, we may get everybody's attic, I don't know.
May have to build an addition.
That's right. You probably mentioned luncheon.
Get down here. Okay. Can I talk while you're doing this?
Sure. I didn't realize that Paul Smith had taught school. I think my parents.
No, he hasn't.
Oh, he didn't. Oh, okay. He just went to country
Another thing
school.
you might want to do is just get the lesson here.
Okay. Yeah.
Right here in Lorenz is where the school came from. And then they had to go all the way over here to Cedar Falls, Blackhawk County. The school was built in 1898 near Lorenz, here in Pocahontas County. And then 2 years ago, in 1987, the school was brought all the way over here to Cedar Falls in Blackhawk County on the back of a truck. This would be like a typical lesson that we would give. Can you get it that way?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these were the kind of sticks, let's see. That. A bunch of them. Want me to put them on the floor? Yeah, just pick them up. That's it.
You can move them around like you're talking about them.
A little heel, they have a narrow foot. Got a wine jar that I just love. It's got all these pretty
Why don't you
designs.
point to the advertising like you were talking about?
Got the elephant, and then down here it's got peanut butter by Frank and Tea and Spice Company, Cincinnati. Jumbo, and then it's got the elephant and peanut butter by Spice and Tea Company, Cincinnati.